What is up, fam? Thank you so much for tuning in to So Real Sports Talk. Today is Wednesday, so you know that means we are talking fantasy football. And if we are talking fantasy football, you know I have Mr. Britannica himself, Casey Passier. Now that's super dated, Casey. We talking about Encyclopedia Britannica. So you being Mr. Britannica, I'm aging myself.
Yeah, it's even earlier than Encartos, isn't it?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I think we actually have a set of Encyclopedia Britannicas at my house where my parents live. So they were definitely the cat's meow back in the day. But we got too much to talk about, so let's stop talking about encyclopedias. This week's show, Casey, we are talking start, sit, or trade. So we are we just finished week 2, starting week 3. So this is a interesting part of fantasy because, some injuries have come down. There's some big names that still haven't, played extremely well. There's some names that are playing extremely well that right now, or no names that are playing extremely well right now that, you might think that down the line might not be playing well. So it's an interesting time of the year where you might be able to get some value through trading. So I thought we'd talk about it. Talk a little bit about your mindset, this early in the season, as far as what you're doing with your players and what you're looking for out of maybe some trades.
Yeah, so at this point, you shouldn't panic. Even 0-2 teams could still end up being competitive, but you do want to make sure that I think we talked about it last week, being a little bit fluid, being able to be like water and be fluid with whatever situation you're in each league. So if that requires getting rid of some guys that you don't feel as confident about anymore, then you got to figure out how you're going to do that, whether that's trading them or cutting them. Some guys like uh, Elijah Moore, even Michael Carter, might be cuttable at this point because if they pop, it's going to be later in the season after they really catch on. They're not. It doesn't look like they're going to have the breakout games right away. Although Michael Carter did okay last week, he ended up getting a lot of volume late, and it'll be interesting to see what week 3 is for him. But there might be a guy like that you can get rid of and add from the waiver wire. But if you're looking to stay competitive, you might be, if you're a competitive team already, say you're 2-0, there still might be a trade option out there for you to really solidify yourself. So we'll talk about a bunch of these guys, and there's people out there to trade for. So
Yeah, one thing that I like doing, especially if I have a lot of depth at one position, is maybe taking a player and getting maybe not, if you can't get necessarily a stud, but like two constant contributors that could help out depth or even, plug into another position role for you that might be a little bit weaker because you took, that, let's say you're really deep at running back. So your wide receiver position isn't as strong. Maybe take your second best running back, trade them for two solid wide receivers. Now, all of a sudden, your team is stronger overall. And there might be some guys that you probably bought high or bought low that you could sell high now because they're
yeah,
outperforming where you drafted them at, and vice versa. Maybe a guy like, let's say, like Ezekiel Elliott, who hasn't been performing great, or maybe even like Saquon Barkley, who hasn't been performing at the level where they were drafted at, that you might, if you believe in them, might be able to grab them
yeah.
for, a position that you have a lot of depth at. And then maybe later on in the season when they pick back up, if you believe that, your team's going to be much better off for that.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree.
Cool. Well, let's get into some of these start, sit, and trades. We're going to start off with some quarterbacks because the league is driven by quarterbacks, and we have some heavy hitters here. Casey, we are going with Matthew Stafford of the LA Rams, Tom Brady of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Russell Wilson from the Sea Chickens.
All right. Well, are we doing start, sit, cut, or keep, trade, cut? That's a little bit different.
We put start, sit, trade.
Start, sit, trade. Well, that might change some of mine, but that's all right.
I
We'll
think that's
start
what you
with.
texted me. Let me make sure. It's
I think it's
not crazy.
keep trade, cut. That's kind of, I don't want to say industry standard, but that's a game that people play here and there.
Keep, trade, cut. We'll change. Well, whatever. Let's do keep, trade, cut then. Whatever you feel like is gonna make it easier for you to do. Hey, the logo says start, sit,
what I
trade.
planned
The
for.
show says start, sit, trade. But we're playing keep, trade, cut because you know what? You said be like water. We are fluid on this show. So keep, trade, cut.
All right. Well, starting off with the quarterbacks, Brady, Stafford, and Wilson. I think this one's pretty easy, especially for redraft. You're probably able to cut Wilson at this point. There's even going to be waiver options that we might talk about later at the quarterback position that you could.
Which Wilson are you? We're talking about Russell Wilson, right?
Oh, yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. Yeah. So no, but I mean, in this game, you still are talking about doing that. When it comes to these three, I'm probably going to cut Wilson, and then I'm going to trade. So the idea is you have these three quarterbacks on your team. You have to make a decision with these quarterbacks.
Right.
So out of these three, because I think Stafford's a little bit, his name value is a little hot right now, and the LA stuff is kind of keeping him popular. I think his value is a little higher than Wilson's. Okay. So I would probably sell for Stafford's value, and I have to cut somebody. So I'm going to cut Wilson, and you can't not keep Tom Brady right now. I think he has 9 touchdowns through 2 games, so I don't see that team slowing down. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this situation, it's kind of hard to argue with you. I still would believe that Russell Wilson would hold more trade value than Stafford just because of the upside. So I might change that. I'm with you. I would keep Tom Brady just because it seems like that offense is all systems go. And they have, some pretty easy games in their division that he could just rack up points against, and rack up fantasy points against. It was funny. Antonio Brown was this huge hit in week 1, and then he barely gets any play in week 2. Mike Evans gets no play in week 1, and then he goes for 2 touchdowns week 2. So that offensive core, it seems like Chris Godwin's going to be a constant. It seems like Gronk is going to be a constant. And then Mike Evans and Antonio Brown, whoever, ends up getting the more targets, I think is going to be fantasy viable. So,
but you probably can't sit them. You probably have to play those guys. You have them in your lineup. You can't let that happen on your bench.
For sure. So I would probably keep Tom, try to trade Russ, and I'd probably cut Stafford. And the reason why is Stafford's defense is a lot better than Seattle's defense. So I would assume Russell Wilson is going to be in more high scoring affairs where that's going to be, more important. So that's kind of where I see maybe Wilson's value would be a little bit higher.
That's fair. I'm a little hopeful that Stafford's still going to just air it out and, things are going to get a little nuts out there.
Well, hey, without any running backs really to run the ball, they just have Sony Michel right now. So I expect the ball to be in Stafford's hands a lot more. Tristan McDaniel, yo. Thank you for tuning in, my guy. Let's move to the next one. We have Travis Kelce or Kelsey, however way you want to pronounce it. Christian McCaffrey and Cooper Kupp. Now, I think usually this would be like last year, this would be a real easy one. Well, if CMC was injured, but I'm saying like in years previous, this would be a real easy one. But with the way Cooper Kupp has really stepped up in his connection with Matthew Stafford, it makes it a little bit more difficult as far as, how you go about this one. So what say you, Casey?
Yeah, and that was kind of my idea with some of these, is putting some guys together that after week 2, some are questionable or some have really outperformed ADP and where we thought they were going to be at. And so, it makes the game a little bit more fun because guys like this, value-wise, are pretty close. Maybe not, to everybody, but they're pretty close. But I'm going to keep CMC. I think that I think that he's proved his 101 spot in most leagues. Obviously, Derrick Henry went off this last week, but CMC's really consistent when it comes to that, and I think that we can expect, you know, his higher ceiling games are still to come. I'm trading Kelsey, and I'm going to cut Cup. Um,
Yeah.
like Cup is still really valuable, and he looks to be the guy in LA, and he's got a connection with Stafford, and he's still going to score a lot of points for you. But I think that the smart thing to do is still trade Kelsey because of the name value and because of his production value. It doesn't look like he's slowing down much either, and at
Right.
that position, it's such an outlier that the trade value is still really high. And he's proven that he's going to do it again this year too. So I think the smart thing to do is cut Cup, trade Kelsey, and you keep CMC.
Yeah, I mean, cutting Cup is not anything against Cup. It's just more
No,
about the value
not at
of
all.
the other two names on this list. It's pretty
Yeah.
tough throwing Cup into that
No, it
lineup. You
was.
know what I
It
mean?
was.
So,
And maybe
but
I thought it was a little closer. I do. I like Cup a lot, and I do have him in a couple of my dynasty leagues. So maybe I thought it was a little closer because he's my guy, but it was still fun.
yeah, I mean, I think CMC is still got to be the guy that you keep. I agree with you because, um, I think you'll find a bigger fall off from him to, the running back that you would get in a trade if you were to trade him than if you just kept him. Kels, as he likes to pronounce it, is the guy you got to trade. You can't cut Travis Kelce, man. You got to
Yeah.
trade him, get what you can for him, and then just by process of elimination, Cup has to get cut. Somebody has to get cut in this game. Question for you from Ethan Hartman. Should I trade DJ Moore for Allen Robinson in PPR? And what I think why this question is important, Ethan, is because Justin Fields is now listed as the starter, was just announced as the starter by Matt Nagy. So you expect maybe that would mean the ball is going to be aired out a little bit more. So what do you think about that trade?
Yeah, and I think the ball will get aired out more, and Justin Fields did seem to even lean on Allen Robinson a couple of times on Sunday. There's positions where he just wanted the ball out of his hands and up in the air, and when he did that, it went to Allen Robinson. So I like the idea of trying to go and acquire him, but I don't think I pay DJ Moore for him. DJ Moore and Sam Darnold look to have a bit of a connection, and you might not get the high ceiling, but you're going to get steady production out of DJ Moore. I'd rather pair up Robbie Anderson with somebody else. If you got somebody like that, pair up Robbie Anderson with somebody else and then go trade for Allen Robinson. Sometimes these one-on-one deals, they're fun, and those are like really bets, and that's a really good gamble. And if that's how you like to play fantasy, that's pretty fun. But I don't mind overpaying for a guy that I think is really that's going to perform.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Ethan, Allen Robinson will pick up with Justin Fields, but I would definitely want to pair him with somebody else if I'm going to give up DJ Moore. So somebody, if you have running back issues or issues at quarterback, try to get another solid player because DJ Moore, like Casey said, is going to give you a lot of solid production out of receivers. So if you could make that up with another person that you'd be able to play in either the flex or start in one of those positions, it might be a good move. Otherwise, I'd probably stick with DJ Moore because in PPR, I still think both of them are going to be targeted pretty similarly because they're each of their quarterbacks number one player. So, and if you're going to go with a rookie versus, I guess a vet, if you call, Sam Darnold a vet, it seems like Carolina's, playing pretty well. They have a pretty easy schedule. So I would probably ride with them more than I would with Justin Fields in Chicago that have to play, a lot tougher schedule. Another question: should I be concerned about Ezekiel Elliott? Casey, what do you say?
No, I'm not. I'm not concerned. We knew that this team was going to come out and like really, they're going to put up some gaudy numbers, and the only way to truly do that right now in the NFL is to throw the ball around. And I know Tony Pollard kind of came in and he had a productive game, But his one touchdown actually came on a sweep at the goal line, which is typically going to be an Ezekiel Elliott play. So this was just misdirection. They were catching the defense off guard, and that happened to go to Tony Pollard. But if Zeke gets that touchdown instead, you're looking at a really good fantasy day. And I'm not, if you have some depth and you just want to bench him, or if he's not actually playing in your starting position, that's fine. And just wait on it a couple of weeks. But I wouldn't go about trading him quite yet, unless you get somebody that is really going to offer you a top dollar and offer you something that you might need. But otherwise, I wouldn't be too concerned. And if you don't have him, go acquire him.
This might be another tough outing for him too against Philadelphia and that defensive line. Even the 49ers, who they played last week, who had an amazing rushing day against Detroit, really struggled to move the ball against Philly. So, you might see another, not so good game. So like Casey said, you don't want to panic with guys like, Zeke. You probably drafted him pretty high. Kind of got to ride out with him. Maybe bench him for this week if you have some stronger options there. But I think you could ride with him. I think eventually he'll figure it out. He's too important to that team. Trey S. Evening, gents. Bid you to do as well, sir. Full PPR, bench one, Robert Woods, Deontay Johnson, or Debo. You are definitely not benching Debo. He is the only receiver that Jimmy G throws to. He doesn't throw to George Kittle. He doesn't throw to Brandon Ayuk. He doesn't throw to Trent Sherfield. He is only throwing to Debo. So Debo definitely play. And out of Deontay Johnson and Robert Woods, I'm going to go with Robert Woods. I love Deontay Johnson, but it seems like that offensive line is not giving Big Ben that much time, and it's been affecting the overall offense as a whole. I think Robert Woods is just going to be more consistent because he's playing for a better team as far as offense, I think. So in my mind, Debo for sure, and then I would probably go with Robert Woods. What about you, Casey?
Yeah, the same. I wanted you to say bench Robert Woods for a second so that we were different, but Deontay's injury is a little bit concerning because they have so much depth that they can turn away from him when and if they want to. And I'm still pretty high on the Rams, so I think that that team can really start to blow the roof off that building pretty soon, and Robert Woods would be part of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because Deontay Johnson last year, if you had him in PPR, he's probably getting wins for you just because of all the targets that he was getting and all that kind of stuff. So great questions, guys. Please keep them coming if you have any more. Let's move on. Chubb M. Williams. This is going to be the Williams from the LA Chargers and Amari Cooper from the Dallas Cowboys. We are playing keep, trade, cut. And this one I think is going to be a little bit tough for you, my man, because Williams and Cooper are both very, very close to your heart. So I am interested to see what your answer is.
Yeah. And in a week, this could change. Like if Mike Williams if he has another week that's pretty much on par with what's happening, I could flip this pretty easily. But I'm going to keep Chubb, trading Cooper, and cutting Mike Williams at this point. Overall, I like the Dallas offense, the way it's operating a little bit better. I still think that the Chargers are going to figure it out, but they're younger, and they have more pieces that they have to kind of solidify and get, make sure that they're in place. And Chubb has just looked dominant. I know that he tends to be touchdown dependent, but Kareem Hunt just gets schemed in when they need something or when they're ready to lean on somebody. It's Nick Chubb. And with the wide receiver injuries popping up here, I think they're going to lean a lot more on the run game.
Right. Yeah, you can't. You got to keep Chubb. I mean, he's too prime a running back for you to be able to do anything other than keep him and start him in your lineup. And I'm with you. I'm trading Amari Cooper. I'm cutting Williams. I know you're really high on Williams, and look, the first 2 weeks he has proven you right. I just got to believe that Keenan Allen is going to solidify eventually be that go-to guy for Herbert. I think even though Williams is having, big games, the Charger offense isn't playing very well. And I think a lot of that has to do with Keenan Allen hasn't broken out yet. So when Keenan Allen breaks out, I imagine that Charger offense will start looking like they did last season. And in part, Williams will probably not be getting as many points in fantasy as he has been these first 2 weeks. So that's just my guess, which is why, I would cut him and, use the other two as assets, either starting them or trading.
Sure.
I know that was tough for you, man, because Mike Williams was one of your dark horses. So
yeah.
To just discard him to the side must have felt icky.
Well, he'll be. I'm sure that he is going to die on plenty of my fantasy teams or dynasty teams. Like he will just be on my roster, like the way Larry Fitzgerald just sits there on a roster because you can't drop him yet.
Why? He's not even in the league.
Well, there's always hope. and maybe he was on a championship team of yours at one point, and you just like sitting there looking at him.
All right, it's you're not ready to let that one go.
Yeah, Calvin Johnson is available in some of the leagues that I play in still. Too.
Really?
Yeah.
Keep Megatron on the IR. Yeah. All right, so let's go, and I added everybody's first initial just to keep continuity. So R. Moore is Rondell Moore from the Cardinals, correct?
Yep.
Pollard from Dallas, and then Melvin Gordon, Tony Pollard. Sorry. Tony Pollard from the Dallas Cowboys and Melvin Gordon from the Denver Broncos. Now, this is kind of interesting because two are, I guess, slotted in as starters, and then Pollard is a backup, but he still gets a lot of play for Dallas, and obviously had a really big game, last week for the Cowboys. So interesting. Let's see how you play it.
Well, I at this point, all three of these guys are startable. Like you're probably starting all of them in your flex. Yeah, if you have them on one team, like the game we're kind of playing, you have some decisions to make. But I just thought it was interesting. I wanted to get a mix of, like you said, a couple of reserves and a starter in there. But at this point, I'm going to keep Rondell Moore.
Interesting.
And in fact, and then actually, I would probably go out and I'd pay top dollar. Like I would go acquire him and try to get him everywhere I could.
Now, if this was a dynasty league, this is easy, right? You're definitely keeping Rondell Moore because
he's going
to be for
Yep. It's interesting because the way that this plays out, the way that this one plays out, for me, it's going to be the same dynasty or redraft wise. I'm keeping Rondell Moore, trading Pollard, and cutting Gordon. I think Pollard, after Pollard's second game, I think he's got enough name value, or people have seen that production that's going to be worked in for him, the way that he is going to be schemed in, that he's a starting running back, and those are valuable in all fantasy leagues. So I'd trade him for that value. Rondell Moore, you probably acquired him a lot later, so you paid less for him than both of these guys, and you're going to be able to start him. So you're gaining value just by doing that, trading Pollard away for assets that you might need. And then Melvin Gordon is, enough of a veteran, might be losing that job towards the end of the season, so you can afford to lose that production right now.
Yeah, so this one, I guess, I'm not. I think in a redraft league, these guys aren't going to pull you much as far as in the draft market. None of these guys, because I think even though they've had some games, I also think that people still aren't sold, and I don't think 2 weeks is going to sell anybody on these. But for this game, I would also keep Rondell Moore just because Arizona's offense is all gas, no brakes. So Kyler Murray is just throwing that ball, slinging that ball all over the field. So I think Rondell Moore is going to have a lot of opportunities. It seems like he's starting to solidify himself as that second option behind DeAndre Hopkins. And because he has DeAndre Hopkins, he's seeing a lot of single coverage. So I think he eats that up as the second option with Kyler Murray there. I'm trading Melvin Gordon because I think you could get more for him than you can for Pollard. I know you're high on Pollard, and he did have a good game last week, but he also did play week 1, and there wasn't that good of a game. So which Pollard is it? Is this the week that we go off of, or is week 1 the week that we go off of? So I think Melvin Gordon has been pretty consistent week after week. I think that Denver is more of a balanced team with Teddy Bridgewater. So it's not like Dak, who we know a game could turn into him throwing the ball 50 times. That's not going to happen with Teddy Bridgewater. The running game will always be a part of that game plan. I don't know if that's the same for Dallas, right? So that's why I'm trading Melvin Gordon, and I'm cutting Pollard. And you got to agree with all those arguments. So I'm going to judge this and say I won. All right. So
yeah, you get next. One. You can do one.
Next. This is interesting, man. These are probably names that nobody would have ever talked about if it wasn't for how this season is going. All of these guys, for the most part, well, maybe not Damien Harris. He's been pretty consistent, but the other two have had one decent game and a flop game. So let's go with Corey Davis from the Jets. Henry Ruggs from the Las Vegas Raiders, and then Damien Harris from them Patriots. So who are you keeping? Who are you trading, and who are you cutting?
Yeah, so this one was a little different because I don't know. I wanted to put them. I really wanted to act as an owner in this one rather than just play this keep trade cut game. I wanted to act as the owner of these guys, and because of where in which I probably got Henry Ruggs, I think I'm going to keep Henry Ruggs just because he has this, he has this upside. I know that Corey Davis scored 2 touchdowns in week 1, but it wasn't, I'd have to check to make sure, but I don't believe it. I don't think it was like 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was less than 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. The targets weren't crazy. He was obviously the Zach Wilson go-to guy. But because of that, I'd probably trade on what value you do have of Corey Davis. Well,
wait, you're cutting Damien Harris?
No, I don't think I will. I initially had that down, but it doesn't
I'm
sound
like,
right.
what
Now
are we
I'm saying it out loud.
Right?
No,
what are we talking
I would trade
about, right?
Damien Harris, and I would cut Cody Davis. I would trade trade Damien Harris, and I would cut Corey Davis, and I would keep Henry Ruggs.
Look,
just because I like the crazy upside of Henry Ruggs.
Look, and I am the one on this show that messes up player names. You cannot mess up player names, and I mess up player names. There's only could be one, and that one is I. All right, sir. All right. So you are the person that corrects me when I'm bringing up players that played 10 years ago. Okay, so you can't come now and all of a sudden try to switch roles with me. I am the one that can't remember player names. So I am keeping Damien Harris. Because one, the New England Patriots are going to be a run-first team throughout this whole season, especially with the rookie quarterback and the receivers that they have there. And on top of that, Damien Harris has been playing consistently, getting double-digit points. So I'm keeping him out of these 3 because the other 2, to me, are extremely inconsistent. You can have a game where they go out and get 20, 30 points, but you can also have 2-3 weeks where they string together 5 to 8 points. And I don't think you're going to have that with Damien Harris. I think you're consistently getting double-digit points with Damien Harris because of his usage on the Patriots and his skill set. So I'm keeping Damien Harris. I'm probably trading Henry Ruggs because I think he has more value because of his quarterback. Obviously, Derek Carr is a much better quarterback at this point than Zach Wilson. We already saw what Zach Wilson did last game. He's a rookie. We're going to expect these up and down games. So Because of that, I think Henry Ruggs will have some more trade value. And then I'm cutting Corey Davis because, somebody has to get the axe. And out of these guys, he's the one.
He's the one.
Yeah. Once again, I got to say, stellar analysis by me. So, really got to step
it.
Yeah, I did. What's going on, fellas? This is from Q McBride. Pick 2 for this week out of Mixon, Elliott, Swift, full PPR. To me, this is easy.
Yeah.
Mixon and Swift.
Yes, sir.
Especially in
Mixon
PPR, Swift is going to probably be the best out of these 3 because he gets pretty much all the passes out of the backfield, and they like doing that underneath stuff, especially with the limitation of Jared Goff.
Mixon's getting all the touches,
and Elliott is
no
going
matter
up.
what they do.
Elliott is going up against the Eagles' defensive line, which is really, really good right now. So I think Elliott's going to have another week where he struggles. So that's probably going to be 3 weeks in a row, which means next week you could probably snap up Elliott because there's going to be a lot of people jumping off the boat.
They're going to be.
Yeah. So I'm going Mixon and Swift. I think it's pretty easy. That would be the decision, Q McBride. He also has
nice
another
running back room, though.
Ooh. Yeah, that is nice.
Nice.
Yeah, Swift was dropping in a lot. I have Swift. I got him in like the 6th round in a lot of these redraft leagues.
Yeah.
I don't know. People, I think because of the injury from last season. And,
well, and redraft drafts all happen right before the season. So his training camp and not playing preseason, everybody was just, he was falling.
Other question from Q McBride, Devontae Smith or Marvin Jones?
Oof.
I'll give my answer first because you're thinking I'm going to go with Devontae Smith because of the matchup.
Yeah,
he's playing the Cowboys. I think that's going to be a high-scoring game.
And Jacksonville's playing Arizona. Arizona's defense is legit.
Yeah, and I mean Trevor Lawrence is another rookie quarterback. I mean, not that Jalen Hurts is like been in the league for 10 years or whatnot, but it seems like Hurts is a little bit more consistent at this point than Trevor Lawrence is. I think you said it last week. Trevor Lawrence is trying to do too much. I got to go with Devontae Smith just because I feel like that's going to be a high-scoring affair. However, Jacksonville, to keep up with Arizona, are probably going to air the ball out a lot as well. So tough.
I think I saw Trevor Lawrence has the most balls over 20 yards thrown or attempted this season already. I mean, through 2 games, and that surprised me at first a little bit. I was like, not with they're going to be playing from behind, and not the way that he played college ball or that Urban played ball. So when that team starts to connect, if they start to connect, like, it'll be nice. And that's why Marvin Jones, I think, is really interesting. He's the veteran guy on that team that they were talking in training camp how Trevor Lawrence was turning to him. So save him. Don't cut Marvin Jones or anything like that, but you probably do want to start Devontae Smith.
Yeah, and you look at what happened with the Cowboys in their Week 1 matchup with Tampa Bay. Antonio Brown went off.
Yeah.
Right, and he's their deep threat. That's what Devontae Smith is. So it seems like the Cowboys have some issues with speedy receivers that go deep. What does Devontae Smith do? Well, he's a speedy receiver that likes to go deep. So I expect him to have a pretty decent game. So I would start Devontae Smith.
Yeah, if you have Jalen Reagor, I'd probably get him in the starting lineup too.
That is true. That is very, very true. Hey, and we really appreciate you guys throwing your questions in. It helps the show move forward. So please keep them coming.
Yeah, those are fun.
Here we go. This is a good one. This one was probably the best one that you put together because, man, oh man, what do you do here? So
you got to cut one of these guys.
Yeah, you got to cut one of these guys. So Stephon Diggs.
And 2 of them scored 40.
Maybe that makes your decision easier, right? Stephon Diggs, Derrick Henry, King Henry, as we should say after his last week's performance, and Aaron Jones. Keep, trade, cut. You want to go first? Or you want me to go?
Sure, I'll go.
All right.
I am cutting Aaron Jones. I am keeping Stephon Diggs, and I am trading Derrick Henry.
You could probably get a lot for Derrick Henry for sure.
Yeah, the value is just nuts right now, and while I only own him, Stephon Diggs, I only have him in one dynasty league. The offers that I've been getting for Diggs right now are just atrocious. So everyone's trying to get him on the cheap. It looks like he's the one that people have pegged to kind of go out there. Maybe he's the Ezekiel Elliott of the wide receivers. But I wouldn't. You can't trade that guy. I don't think you can ever trade that guy unless somebody offers you that barn. But I'm going to trade Derrick Henry after this week. I saw something. I think it was Ryan McDowell shared a spread, and it showed the top. It had every team, or had, what did it have, broken down into each position, and then quarterback 3, 2, 1, and it was wide receiver 3, 2, 1, and it was what teams allowed a quarterback 1 against them in weeks 1 and 2. What teams have allowed a quarterback 2, and the same thing with the running backs and the wide receivers. And the Tennessee Titans have allowed, in the first 2 weeks of the season, they've allowed 2 quarterback 1s, 3 wide receiver 1s, 2 running back 1s, and 1 tight end 1, I think. So their defense is trash.
Right.
This team is going to have to start airing out the ball pretty soon, which means that Derrick Henry's he's not going to have a lot of these games like he used to. I don't think so. Just the way that I'm trying to,
you're trying to put that out there. You're trying to create this narrative. You have something against King Henry for some reason.
I don't want to create the narrative. I just want to. I want to be, and it's not just all me, but I just want to be one of those guys that's gotten ahead of the narrative. So you go, see, like this is a way that it could play out. There's if you will, there's a universe somewhere that's what happens,
right?
And it could be this one. So. It's just something that is kind of scary to me. The way that they planned in the offseason, the way that they kind of, it looked like they wanted to take a little bit more off of his plate. And then the idea of their defense not going to be like it used to be, that it might force them to take more off his plate too, just because of where they end up in the game plan or where they end up in game script later on in the game.
See,
so I'm taking advantage of that value, and
I take it the complete opposite way. So because they have such a trash defense, they have to play time of possession to keep that defense off of the field. So how do you play time of possession when you have probably the best running back in the backfield?
Yep.
You keep giving them the ball, right? And last week they played a high power offense, right? In Seattle that did score a lot of points. And they still stuck to the game plan. And I think that's why they won versus what happened in week 1 versus against Arizona, where they tried to put it in Tannehill's hands, right? At the end of the day, Derrick Henry is not going to get a lot of first half yards. But that second half, that defense, whomever that defense is going to be tired. That defense is going to be hurting. And that's when Derrick Henry seems to get all of his energy, and he's gonna go off for what you would want your starting running back to do in the whole game. He's gonna just do in the second half, right? Yep. And so, to me, you got to keep Henry. I'm also with you. I'm cutting Aaron Jones, just because Diggs, I think, is. Diggs is one of the top 8, I think, receivers in fantasy. Yeah. He has one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy in Josh Allen. I know the offense hasn't taken off quite yet in Buffalo, but you got to assume, that it will. And I think that there'll be a lot of people that would want Diggs, and that you could get, good value for him. You could probably get good value for Aaron Jones as well. But the only reason why I think Aaron Jones is the least valuable out of all of these is that offensive line in Green Bay is not very good. And I think how they played last week was more a testament of who they played versus who they are. And so I think there's going to be a lot of up and down games with the Green Bay Packers. And I think Aaron Jones is going to have a lot of up and down games because that offensive line just isn't good without Bakhtiari and letting Corey Linsley go and, Beluga a few years ago. So all that makes me believe you keep Henry, trade Diggs, cut Aaron Jones. And once again, amazing analysis by So Real Sunil. This one I think ended up becoming a lot easier after this week than it would if we did this after week 1. But let's go with Waller from the Raiders, Hawkinson from Detroit, and Antonio Brown from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Keep, cut, trade.
All right, I'm keeping Hawkinson, trading Waller, and cutting Antonio Brown.
You love Hawkinson, man.
Yeah,
you love him.
I like him a lot. Yep.
I'm sorry, I cut you
my
off
wife
because...
on it. That's all right. I put my wife on T.J. Hawkinson when we first or second or third year of this dynasty league because we knew that we were headed towards tight end premium, and she already owned Travis Kelce, and I was like, you could be that guy that drafts this number one tight end. He was the top tight end coming out of that rookie class, and I was like, you could draft him. It's going to be a couple of years, but you have Kelce for a couple of years. You just wait a few years, and this guy will hopefully be your tight end 1. And if not, it's a tight end position. You just do it again the next year. Who cares? There's always one of those guys. And sure enough, now she's got 2 of the top 4 tight ends in a tight end premium league, and she can flex Hawkinson if she wants to in a spot and still be competitive. It's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I do. I've always liked him. His play out of Iowa reminded me a lot of George Kittle.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that after Waller's last 2 seasons and then the start of his season, he's held enough value that you can really go out and flip a position of yours. If you got a position, you own these 3 players. Again, that's the game. You own these 3 players. Tight end, you can lock and load Hawkinson. Waller, you go fix running back or wide receiver. And because you have to cut Antonio Brown, maybe it's wide receiver you have to go fix. But I bet you there's, it wasn't going to be me, but I bet you there's people you can go out there with Waller and make a trade for Diggs right now.
Well, before I answer, Josh Schemmel, trade for Pitts and Najee for A.J. Brown and Carson. I have Gronk already. Is that worth it? Josh, before we answer, if you can respond real quickly, is this a redraft league or a dynasty league? Because I think our answers are very different depending on the league.
Yeah.
So maybe we could give our answers for both. So if it's a redraft league, Casey, what would you do? If it's a dynasty league, what would you do?
If it's a redraft, I'm just holding AJ Brown and Carson for certain.
So it's a redraft league.
Is a redraft. Yeah. I would just keep AJ Brown and Carson right now. The hype on the other 2 is great and big enough, but just wait a year or 2 years and then draft those guys in your redraft league and let them play in the same position AJ Brown and Carson are right now.
Yeah, I mean, if this is a dynasty league and you're not necessarily competitive this year, I'm making that trade all day to get Pitts and Najee on my team. If you could grab them and, you're not necessarily thinking you could win the league this year with your team, then yeah, I'm doing that for a dynasty league. But in a redraft, you got to. I think AJ Brown, and especially Carson, at this point, is going to be more consistent than Pitts and Najee. Pitts, I mean, until they get a new quarterback over there, and I don't know, Atlanta looks extremely bad, man. So I don't think Pitts is going to have.
Yeah,
they look terrible. They look like 0-6, 0-7, the first team ever to go 0-17, and the number one pick in the draft this year. So I don't think Pitts is going to get that much, going to be that good till he gets a new quarterback over there. And Najee, he's my favorite running back drafted this season. I think he's going to be really, really good, but he hasn't shown to be fantasy relevant quite yet. Carson has. AJ Brown will. And, Gronk,
and you have Gronk already.
Yeah.
You have Gronk already. So are you going to trade AJ Brown and Carson away just to start Najee?
Yeah.
You're not starting Pitts over Gronk.
Yeah. I think that you definitely have to. Yeah, I mean, with Gronk there, keep AJ Brown. Maybe don't start him based off of, just wait till he, goes off, because after that week that he goes off, he's probably going to continue to go off. We already saw Julio Jones went for over 100 yards the last game. So that offense is going to pick up. And the more they use Derrick Henry, the better those receivers are going to get. So I think it's just a matter of time.
And there's tons of waiver wire wide receivers you can still go get. So if you feel comfortable enough, you just bench AJ Brown, and I mean Sterling Shepard's available in my league. One redraft league, Sterling Shepard's available. So it's only 10 man.
There's a couple more information coming in that might make some changes. So first, I'm trying to trade for Hawk from the same guy. He's considering it right now. And then this is his wide receiver room. I have Diggs, Cooper, and Lockett. So that kind of changes things as far as why AJ Brown might be, he might be a better trade asset. So if you have this as your wide receiver room, I just don't think Pitts and Najee are going to be that fantasy relevant this year, especially if you have Carson. So I would try to do that, maybe AJ and keep Carson. If you have another running back, maybe you could throw in there and get Hawkinson. But why, man? You have Gronk. I don't know. It seems like you have enough players to put in your flex as well. I don't know what you're just what you're hogpiling assets that aren't going to play for you.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just trying to get Hawk, I mean, maybe you trade Chris Carson and Gronk for Hawk. That might even get it done, just because it's a 2-for-1, and you're getting the asset that you want. But I would probably just lock and load with this team right here that you have, because that's going to be really, really competitive. And if you want to take one of these wide receivers and upgrade your running back, go do that.
JC or Jay, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Boudoin. I probably butchered your name, man. Boudon, I don't know. It sounds kind of like French, so I don't know if my tongue could turn those ways. But trade Higbee and Osborne for Kittle, full PPR. So I'm a big 49er guy. I'm watching the 49ers every week. This channel that you're on is mostly 49er talk. I don't know if Kittle's going to have that big of a season this year, man. It seems like Jimmy G is just only throwing it to Debo, and Kittle isn't getting a lot of catches. If he does get catches, obviously he's a yak boy, so he's getting yards, but I don't know how many targets he's really getting right now. So, and I don't know if somebody would get. Are you trading Higbee and Osborne, or do you have Kittle and somebody's giving you Higbee and Osborne? But yeah, I don't know. If
I want Kittle in this deal, either way. Like if somebody was offering me Kittle for these two guys, I would take Kittle. Just the way the tight end position is, Kittle's still a top 5 tight end, almost week in, week out. It's the position and his team and his quarterback right now. It is going to be up and down, but I mean, I think we all kind of foresee that Trey Lance is going to be in sometime this year.
I don't know, man.
You don't think so?
I don't know. I don't think so, man. I think as long as Jimmy could keep this team winning, there's no. So here's the issue with the 49ers. The locker room loves Jimmy.
Yeah,
so benching him,
I've heard that.
he has to be atrocious or
Yeah.
injured, and he's not
Okay.
going to be atrocious because he's just he's not going to be Tom Brady as far as giving you 4 or 5 touchdowns a game, but
Okay.
he's not gonna lose you a game either. So it's
What
kind
if
of tough.
what if they're like 5 and not even, it can't be 5. Sorry. What if they're like 3-9?
Yeah, I
Three
mean,
and nine, and you're going into the back half of the season, and there's not anything to play for except for making sure that Trey Lance gets some reps in. And for fantasy, that's our playoffs, regardless of whether they
right.
make the playoffs or not, right? And that's just, again, that's painting another narrative.
Right.
But
If that
it's things that we
happens,
see play out,
yeah, if that
and
happens, they're not
that's
a playoff team, so they'll probably start Lance. But their defense is too good to allow a 3-9 season. So
okay,
stop.
fair enough.
Stop talking, putting
Well,
even
then
that in the
then I'll just
atmosphere.
lean on he's a top 5 tight end. I
Yeah.
start him every week. I don't
And
even think about it. It's just plug and play. So
and in this situation, he's trying to get Kittle. So I don't think that's enough to get Kittle from the person that you are trading for. Maybe if Kittle has another bad game this week, I'll try to maybe do the trade after next week because maybe they'll jump off the boat. But
yeah,
as of now, I don't think that if that person is smart, that they'll trade for Kittle. Maybe if Osborne goes off again, that might be more appealing. But
you might
yeah.
have to offer an asset as good as Chris Carson to get Kittle.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Carson plus something.
And then back to Josh Schemmel, he says I have Taylor and Montgomery. I would keep Carson over Taylor at this point. I think Taylor is going to struggle because of the inconsistencies in that offense. With Carson Wentz in and out, the offensive line hasn't been, it's had some injuries and dings there. I know it sounds crazy, but it seems like Carson's playing a lot more consistent and better than Taylor, and obviously Montgomery is going to be your RB1. Moving forward. So maybe Taylor, I think what was the trade? He was trying to get Hawkinson, right?
Hawkinson.
Yeah. So maybe Taylor and AJ Brown might get you Hawkinson. Those are 2 big names.
That's a lot. That's too much. I mean,
but you have
don't
to
know if
understand.
Taylor.
You have to understand who else is on his team, right? So he's probably not flexing a running back. He's probably flexing one of his receivers. And at
Yes,
that point,
probably, but it doesn't mean
he'd be flexing probably even Gronk because he'd have Hawkinson and Gronk on the team. So I don't know. It kind of just depends on. He's 0-2 right now, so he's trying to shake it up.
You're 0-2 with this team?
Ooh. Yeah. I think maybe I don't know who you're starting, brother. Like you should be winning.
yeah, that team sounds really. I mean, whether that's 8, 10, or 12 teams, that sounds like a really good team. I get wanting to make a move. I'm in one of my dynasty leagues that's similar where I feel like I just have to do something. And sometimes it feels like there's nobody out there to trade with. And with that team, it might be best for you. You might just want to sit, wait a couple of weeks, let things even out. I mean, Diggs is going to bounce back, and you're going to have weeks where Diggs and Cooper go off at the same time. I'm not, I'm still pretty confident in Jonathan Taylor just because of the volume. Nyheim Hines gets worked in, but I think that he's going to get enough volume that he's still going to be playable. And the running back position is so volatile that, who knows when Chris Carson could catch something again and go down, and who knows when. Oh, I had the most points scored against. Yeah, you can't do anything.
I think you just kind of started the year off with guys that went on hot streaks.
It sucks.
Your team is really good,
because
man.
it feels like you have to do something, but that team is competitive.
Yeah, your team is really good, man. I would just kind of stick with who you have and not do anything too drastic with the talent that you have, man. Seems like you've drafted really well. So,
but come back in 2 weeks and let us know.
Let us do 2 more. Actually, let's just do these kind of quick, and then I want to get into a little bit of waiver talk with you, Casey, just to see if there's anybody that you have your eye on that might help the guys out. So let's go with Evans, Jefferson, DJ Moore. Another killer, man. 3 really, really good receivers that their quarterback definitely leans on. This, I think, would be easier if Mike Evans didn't have the week 1 performance that he had, and with Antonio Brown looking as good as he has looked. So,
and if we had some typical Justin Jefferson weeks, this would be easier.
Correct.
But
and
we've had
Carolina
a good
being
Mike Evans week. Yeah, and Carolina's 2-0 with a good defense.
Right. So, talk to me. So we're doing keep, trade, cut with Mike Evans from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Justin Jefferson from the Minnesota Vikings, and DJ Moore from the Carolina Panthers.
All right. I am keeping DJ Moore, trading Justin Jefferson, and cutting Mike Evans.
What? This is blasphemy right now.
Yeah, I know. But I think I'm all on board with Carolina. I kind of like I shouldn't say that. I'm all on board with the Sam Darnold DJ Moore connection. Obviously Christian McCaffrey is who they still they want to run that offense through. The whole offense is going to run through him. But it seems like when it comes to the passing game, they're going to try to get away from him a little bit, or at least make sure that they're spreading the ball around. DJ Moore has been really consistent these first 2 weeks. It's might be the breakout that we've really been hoping for, because dynasty leaguers have been watching him since he was a rookie, and he came out right after Stephon Diggs. So I think Diggs was what was Diggs, a 5th or a 6th round pick, and DJ Moore was even a higher draft pick than he was.
Right.
So we've been waiting for him to really break out, and this might be it. And then I'm trading off of Justin Jefferson's breakout season last year. I think people are still going to expect him to produce and have top 10 wide receiver numbers. And I think that's totally possible this season. He's much more of a dynasty asset in my mind than anybody else that we're talking about right here. But in this position, and arguably his value is higher than both of these guys, regardless of how he's performing. And I'm going to trade him on that value, but I'm going to take the DJ Moore production, and I'm cutting Mike Evans.
Wow.
Just because with the Tampa Bay offense, it's it's going to be a little bit like the San Francisco backfield. You're going to have to guess it. If you only have one of these guys, you just have to guess and make sure that you got it right. Although I'm probably playing them anyway. You have a piece of that offense. When that offense and they go off every week now, you want to be part of that.
Yeah. I mean, DJ Moore, I think, has the highest floor.
Yes,
right? So
certainly.
He's going to get you, pretty consistent points, just because he's in an offense where his role is defined. Obviously, first option is CMC. He's going to be the second option. And then Robbie Anderson, is probably going to be the third option in that offense. But with that being said, he is the guy that I'm cutting out of this trio, because the upside of these other two would triple. There's going to be games where Justin Jefferson and Mike Evans triple DJ Moore's production in fantasy. And I don't think you could say the opposite for DJ Moore and what
we don't know yet. We don't know if this is the DJ Moore breakout season. Then there will be games like that. There will be.
Okay, but let's also put into consideration who Carolina has been playing these first 2 weeks. So if he hasn't broken out against the defenses that they've been going at, I'm pretty sure when he starts playing better defenses, he's not going to all of a sudden break out and have better numbers, right? So to me, I think DJ Moore is more a product of who Carolina is playing and versus how this breakout season that you've been hoping for the last year or two with DJ Moore. So,
right.
I'm cutting DJ Moore.
We're playing this game again in 2 more weeks, right?
Sure, absolutely. With the same, I'll keep all of these so we can keep it
We'll
the
keep
same.
this.
So at least this grouping will keep the same. I'm keeping
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson, and I'm gonna trade Mike Evans off of his hot game because I think that Justin Jefferson probably you can't get as much for him just because he still hasn't showed out. Mike Evans just had a huge game, and I think we all see what's happened in Tampa Bay, that it's going to be up and down between those 3 receivers and Gronk, obviously, who's going to get the most targets. So I'm cutting DJ Moore. I'm trading Mike Evans, and I'm keeping Justin Jefferson and praying that he gets all the way healthy, because a healthy Justin Jefferson is, beast mode in this offense.
Yeah.
Once again, stellar from Sunil.
We disagreed enough on these ones. That's good.
Yeah,
that's fun.
So I have 2 more for you, and they're themed based. So this theme is the backups. All right. So these are all backups that are now the starters due to injuries for their starting quarterback. So Heineke, Jacoby Brissett from the Dolphins, and Justin Fields, newly announced starter for the Chicago Bears. Tell me who you would start, or who you would keep, who you would cut, and who you would trade.
So I'm probably cutting Brissett. That's pretty easy. The other 2 are difficult, though. Like the upside of Fields, the ceiling that Fields has is quite a bit higher than Heineke's. But, it doesn't look like Heineke's going to be losing the job anytime soon.
Right.
I don't know. You kind of just brought this one to me before we started, so I don't have anything even written down about it. But
I know. I got it. Hey, sometimes I got to throw you some curveballs, Casey, just to make sure that calculator in your brain starts working.
I'm probably keeping Heineke and trading Justin Fields off of name value because you're going to get better value.
Schemmel says, "Come on, Fields," and he is a Bears fan here, so he says, "Sorry, Casey," because he's a Bears fan.
Oh, no sweat, man. I married a Bears fan. It's no big deal, and I'm not even like a true Packer backer or anything like that anymore. I just happen to have this in my closet with all the other jerseys that I have. And Sunil probably thinks that this is a Jordy Nelson jersey.
Wow, I thought it was a Shannon Sharp. But maybe he's not 87? My bad.
Oh, well, I wish it was. But no,
he was 84. Brooks. Oh, okay.
Robert Brooks.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know who that is. But
you don't even yeah. All right.
I don't know. I don't really know too much about the Packers other than just the big names.
Brett Favre era.
Oh, okay. So I'm actually a little bit higher on Brissett than you are, because I think that the Dolphins have a lot of talent on that team, and Tua wasn't unlocking it. So maybe Brissett could do what Fitzmagic was able to do, and because he can throw the ball. He's played in a system in Indy where he wasn't terrible. He wasn't obviously great either.
Played in Andrew Luck's system.
Yeah. So I think Brissett could be good and get some wins for that team just because their defense is stellar and they have some weapons there. But I'm with you. I'm still cutting him. I'm keeping Heineke and trading Fields. And the reason for that is just like you talked about, I think Fields' name out of these 3 is the biggest name. You could probably get stuff for him. And also, I just don't trust Matt Nagy. Like, he might yank Fields and start Dalton again when Dalton's fully healthy. So I don't know if this is like. I was just
going to say he's done this in a cryptic way. He's done this in the, in kind of a sly way of saying, Andy Dalton is our starting quarterback when he's healthy. So now they can just play he isn't healthy.
Right.
And when all of a sudden he becomes healthy after a Justin Fields game that isn't so great, Like, oh well, he's not healthy anymore, or now he's healthy again, so he's the starting quarterback again, just like I always planned. It was the whole team. So like, yeah, you have that up and down thing you got to juggle with. So if you're trading somebody, trade Fields.
Yeah, and this coming from the Bears fan, Dalton looked good until he got hurt. So if they are high on Dalton, he might go back to being the starter. But if Justin Fields obviously shows out, he's probably going
Yeah,
to be the starter. But I'm probably keeping Heineke because Heineke's a baller, man. He's played 2 full games, one in the playoffs, one against the I think the Giants, and he's balled out in both of those games. So to me, Heineke,
he
when he
brought Tom
knows he's
Brady to his knees. He
there, it
brought
is right.
Tom Brady to his knees in his only playoff game.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying. So I
I'm
think
keeping Heineke.
Heineke as a starter, knowing he's the starter, he has that it factor, man. So
Yeah,
I'm going with Heineke. I'm trading Fields and cutting
he's like a
Brissett.
little white Russell Wilson.
Great analogy. Great analogy. All right. So that was the theme called the backups. This theme is called the rooks. So we're going with Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I'm keeping Mac Jones, trading Trevor Lawrence, and cutting Zach Wilson. And that pains
Woo!
me. It pains me because I love Trevor Lawrence, but in a redraft league, that's the only way to go right now.
Yeah, and you're probably the. I'm actually. Uh, so Mac Jones, I think, is only gonna get you 17 to 20 points a week. Like
Oh yeah,
he's
yeah.
not gonna get you any huge games. He's
Nope.
not gonna get you 8 points like Trevor Lawrence did last week.
Yep. He should not lose you games. Yeah,
Right.
that's kind of the big deciding factor.
Right. Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence are guys that could get you more points when they're on, but also they're going to have the 3 interception games, 4 interception
Yeah.
games, just because they're more of that gunslinger mentality than Mac Jones. So I think you just got to go off of name recognition. Mac Jones, you got to keep just because he's going to be the most consistent. And out of Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence, I think Trevor Lawrence, you get more for. So I agree with you on this one, sir. Point to you, Casey. Point to you. All right. So I really wanted to get into this with you because I think one of the essentials in fantasy, obviously after you've drafted, is how well you can play the waiver wire game. Right? Can you catch people before they go off, or get them before everybody else catches on to them?
Yeah.
So who are some guys that you are seeing right now that should be on your team? That might still be on the waiver wire.
Yeah. And
So we both
I'm going
mentioned
off of.
one. First, let's mention the one that I think should be on everybody's team if he's still available, and that's the receiver out of Minnesota who's had 2 back-to-back 8-target games and has gone
Yeah.
off for double-digit points, and that's KJ Osborne.
Yeah.
So I think he talk a little bit about how you think he should be utilized, and do you agree with me that he should be rostered?
Yeah, if he's available, I'd probably pick him over. Well, in my league, Sterling Shepard's available, but that might be the only wide receiver that I would still select over him. In fact, I might do that while we're talking here. But KJ Osborne, I'm pretty sure he's out of Florida, and that he was a 4 or 5-star prospect coming into Florida. And Florida's kind of like this weird Michigan team right now, where they have these great prospects that come in and out of there. They do nothing in college, but they're going to hit the NFL, and they're going to be useful and productive. So, I would be rostering him. I don't know where you're going to actually fit him into a starting lineup because I don't, you're not starting him over anybody like Amari Cooper, AJ Brown. You might be able to start him over Laviska Shenault and Chase Claypool. Well, no, you probably start Chase Claypool over him still. Well,
I don't know, man. The
now with
consistency
Deontay
out of
Johnson's injury, if he's actually going to be out, I'd probably start Chase. If Deontay Johnson is playing, then I'd probably start KJ Osborne.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally would start Sterling Shepard over Osborne still.
Interesting. Who are some other guys that you're looking at? Well, let's go with this question first from Josh, and then we'll go through more
Oh, sure.
waiver wires. So, would you start Daniel Jones over Stafford or Tannehill this week?
Daniel Jones is like the number 4 quarterback in my home league. He is. I didn't know this
He's
until
putting up
today.
numbers,
Yeah, I didn't know this that he was ranked that high.
but it's also, I think, been who he's played against versus maybe who he is.
Yeah, and he had a ton of rushing yards last week. There
Yeah.
was a ton of RPOs that they ran with Saquon that he broke out, and he had a ton of rushing yards last week that was going to help out. Gosh, who are the other? Stafford and Tannehill. I'm probably starting Stafford with those 3 quarterbacks. I like Stafford as your locked and loaded quarterback one until one of those other guys comes and takes it away.
I'm trying to see who the Giants play this week to kind of be able to make a better decision about this, because Stafford to
They
me
play
is
Atlanta.
Oh, yeah, I'm starting Daniel Jones.
Yeah, you could probably get away with starting Daniel Jones.
I think you start any quarterback that's playing Atlanta.
Yeah, and the Rams play Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
While that could be a shootout still,
oh
but
yeah,
those
that
are 2
was tough.
stellar defenses. So it's tough. Flip a coin.
You know what? I'm actually starting Stafford.
But make Stafford heads.
Yeah, I would start Stafford. You got to kind of just. I think sometimes in fantasy you don't want to outthink yourself, and maybe Daniel Jones.
Yeah, galaxy minded.
Yeah, maybe Daniel Jones does go off, but I doubt he's gonna go off where he's like that many more points than what Stafford's gonna put up against Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
So
hey, and Josh, if Daniel Jones goes off, go trade him for Hawkinson.
Ooh. I think this might be a different league that he's talking about, because he said that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I don't know what this guy is doing in the. This guy is. We're gonna block him. Yeah, he's in timeout. We don't deal with that kind of stuff in this chat.
I couldn't even see it.
Yeah. We won't. We don't even want to give him some press, but
we can talk about it in the green room after.
Yeah, we shall. What? Let's go. Give us 2 names to look out for on the waiver wire right now. That
Cordell
maybe
Patterson.
Our guys. Okay, Cordell Patterson just had a big game. Why do you think that he should be somebody that's either stashed or playing?
Yeah, that backfield is wide open, and nobody is scoring touchdowns for them other than Cordell Patterson at this point. He is a utility piece. He's the definition of it for him right now.
Yeah,
and nobody for Atlanta is going to score touchdowns. It obviously even wants to score touchdowns right now.
It's interesting, man. We just talked about how bad Atlanta is, and we're like, pick up Cordell Patterson from Atlanta. But hey, somebody's got to get some yards there, right?
Yep. And one of the other guys, holy crap, Manuel Sanders is available in this league. I didn't expect to see that name, so that surprised me. But Zach Pascal out of Indianapolis, I would probably go grab him as well.
Even with maybe Eason being the starter?
Yeah, just because it's kind of what's his name? Marquez Callaway. It's kind of the wide receiver one on a team.
Mm-hmm.
A team that might be down a lot, might have to throw the ball around. And Eason has a decent arm. He's a bit of a gunslinger. So
I like it, man.
When you're picking through the waiver wire, you're not necessarily gonna have a bunch of guys here that you can start. But what you want to do is have a bunch of guys here that are available for when somebody else falls.
Right. Or trade assets in the future, right?
Trade assets in the future. Yeah. Daniel Jones is available in this league here. I can, grab him up. And if he ends up being one of these top 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks, there's value in that later in the season with somebody that is making a playoff push that doesn't have that position.
Right.
If somebody drafted Ryan Fitzpatrick and Trevor Lawrence and was like, their quarterbacks are set. Trevor is going to have a great rookie season. He'll come in and help me win this thing later on, and they're screwed.
You're right. I agree. Strategy, man. And that is why you are Mr. Britannica on this show. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in the comment section. Thank you so much for asking your questions. It really makes this show a lot more fun, I think, for everybody. We do this every single Wednesday at 5:30. As you can see, Casey is the man when it comes to fantasy. Really sound advice, really knows his stuff. I think I did pretty well this show as well, and I definitely shouted me out whenever I thought that I hit a home run. But guys, I want you all to be safe, stay hydrated, have a beautiful night, and we will see you all next week.